So if you want to learn to drive, you have to do a theory test. And this picture here is from the highway code, which is something you have to learn before you do your driving theory test. And it tells us how far the car travels at different speeds once you spot a hazard for the car to come to a stop. Okay, so you can see the faster you're going, the bigger the stopping distance. So imagine you're driving and you see there's a tree on the road in front of you. It's a hazard. And your car's gonna keep going because there's some time for you to react. And in that time, your car is going to travel a certain distance. And that's what we call the thinking distance. The distance traveled by the car during the driver's reaction time. Or another word is from spotting the hazard to applying the brakes, just before you apply the brakes. Or another way to think about it is thinking distance is the speed of the car at that time when it was driving when you spot the hazard times the reaction time. And typically the reaction time is between 0.2 to 0.9 seconds for an average situation. But once you've applied your brakes, the car's still going to go and it's going to take some time to stop and it's going to travel a certain distance. The distance it travels when after you've applied the brakes is called the braking distance. So the braking distance is the distance traveled by the car when the brakes have been applied to when the car stops. So in other words, while the brake is being pressed, basically. And if you add up the thinking distance and the braking distance, that's where we get the stopping distance, which is the total distance traveled from spotting the hazard to reacting and then finally the car stopping. That's the total distance traveled between that time. Now let's look at factors that affect thinking distance. Use of drugs and alcohol, distractions like using your phone, and tiredness. Now all of these work in the same way. They're all going to increase the time taken for you to react. Don't say it slows down your reaction. It's better to say the time taken to react is longer. So if it's longer, that means your thinking distance is greater. Because ultimately it comes down to this equation. Now if your reaction time is bigger than on the right hand side, then so is your thinking distance going to be bigger. Now, the final factor that affects thinking distance is your speed. The faster you're going, the longer it will travel. The car will travel during that same reaction time. So let's say you have a reaction time of 0.5 seconds. Well, if you're going faster, obviously it's going to travel longer distance. So higher speed means a larger thinking distance. Let's look at factors that affect the braking distance. So road conditions. So if it's icy and wet, then that's going to increase the braking distance. Worn out tires. So your tires should have these grooves in them, these grooves that should be a certain depth. But if you've used the tires for many, many years, then those grooves would have been worn out and it'll be like almost smooth, the tire. And that's bad. That reduces friction. And then also brake pads. The brake pads between in your wheels, they need to be new. If they're worn out, that's going to increase your braking distance. So all of these here work in the same way. What they do is they reduce the friction. So once you hit the brakes, the braking force is not as big, it's smaller. So that means your car doesn't decelerate as quickly. So it takes a longer time to decelerate and it travels a larger distance in that time. Okay, so smaller friction means smaller braking force, means less deceleration and travels a larger distance. Okay, finally, the final factor that affects your braking distance is the speed. The faster your car is going, the longer the time it takes to decelerate at any given speed, and the larger the distance traveled is. Example number one, a driver in a car has a thinking distance of 15 meters and a braking distance of 38 meters. What is the stopping distance? Now remember, stopping distance is the thinking distance plus the braking distance. So add these two numbers up together and you get 53 meters, which is the total stopping distance. Okay, example two, state and explain the effect of the following factors on the stopping distance. Drinking alcohol. Okay, so firstly, if you're drinking alcohol, your reaction time is going to be longer. It's going to take you longer to react to any hazard. So then you need to recall this equation. Thinking distance is speed times reaction time. So if you've got a longer reaction time, your thinking distance also increases. However, the question is not just asking about thinking distance, it's asking about stopping distance. Stopping distance is thinking distance plus braking distance. We haven't changed the braking distance, but the thinking distance is longer because your reaction is taking longer to react. So that means your stopping distance also increases because your thinking distance increased. Part B, how does having good tires and brakes installed affect your stopping distance? Good tires and brakes means we've got more friction. That means we've got a bigger braking force and we can decelerate in a shorter distance. So basically your braking distance is decreases shorter, which is good. However, the question is asked about stopping distance, and stopping distance is thinking distance plus braking distance, and the braking distance is shorter now, it's smaller. However, we haven't changed the thinking distance, but still, stopping distance will also decrease because we're decreasing the braking distance. Okay, final part. How does driving faster affect your stopping distance? Well, firstly, let's think about thinking distance, which is speed times reaction time. No matter how good your reaction time is, if you're driving very fast, your thinking distance is also going to increase. Okay, because in that same reaction time, you're going to be traveling a larger distance. Now let's think about braking distance. So if you're driving very fast, it's going to take a larger distance to decelerate, because even if you've got really good tires and brakes, you will still travel a larger distance once you've hit the brakes. So your braking distance increases. If both of those increase, well, your stopping distance is definitely going to increase.